Good afternoon, hope you're all okay. Today I'm going to tackle that horrendous topic of allergens, which I know the maths side of working out the allergens in your soap strikes fear into many of us. It's actually not that difficult, it's just a case of A, knowing how to do it, B, being organised, as always. There's lots of spreadsheets doing the rounds that you can use if you want to. You don't have to, you can just use a calculator and do it with pen and paper. But I can't obviously show you that as easily. So I will use a spreadsheet today that's been created for me. I think it's in the soap suite. If it's not in the soap suite, I'll pop it in there for those of you that are members in there. So let me just change my screen a minute and make it so that you can see it. Okay, so hopefully you should be able to see my screen now. This is one of the allergen calculators that I know is doing the rounds. There's probably lots of them out there. It's really just a maths sheet, to be honest. They're all listed here as separate allergens, but you don't need to have them all individual if you don't want to. You can just have one line and use that line time and time again. So to work this out, you need to know the percentages of your essential oils that are in your soaps, as you probably know. And anything that's over 0.01% has to be declared on your soap label as an allergen. So to work this out, I'm just going to assume that I'm making a lavender and lemongrass soap because I know there's lots of allergens in that, and it's a really good way for me to show you how to do it all. So for the sake of argument as well, I have a folder on Google Drive where I keep all of my SDSs, allergen sheets, IFRA statements, all that kind of thing. And it means you can just keep adding new ones to them if you want to, and also makes them really super easy to find. So this is my lavender one, and I'm just going to look at my allergens. And for the sake of argument, I'm going to have in my soap 1.5% lavender, 1.5% of lemongrass. You might not have that. You might have 5 different essential oils, but the principle will be the same. So on your allergen sheet that you've got from your supplier, you will see that it tells you what allergens are in that particular essential oil. And we can see that we've got citral, 0.04 in this particular lavender. So we go to our allergen calculator, we go to citral, we go to 0.4, which is already in there, which is the percent of allergen in our EO. And then in the next column, you put the percent of oil in your recipe. So mine will be 1.5%. And then you just tab along and it will tell me that my percentage of citral is 0.06%. So I'm just going to make a note of that. I wouldn't, if it was just lavender, I would know that I don't need to use that, but I know that my lemongrass will probably have citral in as well. So for the sake of argument, I'm just going to write it down. Then go back to your document and you can see that you have got coumarin, which is 0.13%. So again, go back to here. Now you can click on coumarin, go 0.13, and then click on here and go 1.5. You don't really need to. You could use the same column as you did here, which I will do in future, just so I don't have to keep retyping 1.5. But anyway, that tells me that that one is 0.00195. So we'll make a note of that, and then go back to my document. My next one is geraniol at 0.66%. So back to my calculator. I'm just going to use the same column now. We've got 1.5% in there, and its percentage of the allergen in my soap for this one is 0.0099. So that's geraniol. And again, they're all below the threshold at the moment. However, by the time I've added the lemongrass in, it may well exceed the threshold. So you do need to make a note of them. The next one is limonene, and that is 0.74. So back to my calculator, we'll change that to 0.74, and it brings it up to 0.0111. So that has now reached the threshold regardless of whether it is in my lemongrass or not. And linalool I know will do because it's really high, 35.75. linalool, 35.75. 35.75. And that one is 0.536, that'll do. Okay, so we'll make a note of that. That's all our lavenders. And keep those figures because you may well need them for the portal. Trying to remember what you put in the portal. I can't remember if it's the percent. No, it's not the percent. Yeah, it is. The allergens, if you have to list those in the portal these days as well. So if they're over a certain amount, keep a note of them because you will need them. So we're going to go back to here and I'm going to go to my lemongrass document. And this one, I know lemongrass has, here we go. So they've only listed the allergens that are in there. So citral, it says 50 to 100%. So I'm going to have to assume it's 100% because that is the only information I can go on. And I've got 1.5% lemongrass in as well. So I'm going to carry on using this column. So we have got, understandably, 1.5% citral. And my lavender had 0.006 in, so I've now got 1.5006% of lemongrass. Then the next one is geraniol, which is 5 to, it says less than 10%, but we'll have to go with 10%. So we'll put 10 in there. So it's 0.15, so we'll put that next to geraniol. The geraniol in the lavender was 0.009, so it's minimal really. So 0.15 plus 0.009, I'm not even going to worry about that, it's such a small quantity. Then going back to here, my limonene is 1 to less than 5%, so we'll have to go to 5. And that takes me to 0.075. Which one was that? Limonene. So limonene is 0.075, and I already had 0.01 in there, so it now goes to 0.085 in total. And the next one is linalool, again 1 to 5, so we'll have to go with 5, which will be exactly the same as the one we've just done, so it'll be 0.075. And we had 0.536 in the lavender, so I'll add those two together. I need a calculator for that, but we just add the two in the essential oils together. And obviously if you had 3 or 4 essential oils and they all had linalool in, you would need to add all the figures together for the total amount in there. But if you're over 0.01% anyway, it will need to be listed regardless of how much you've got in there. Then the next one is citronellol, which I did not have at all in my lavender, so we'll write that on as a new one. And it says less than 1%, so we'll go with the 1%. And I've got 1.5% lavender grass, so it's 0.015. So that hits the threshold as well. And finally, eugenol is the same. It says less than 1%, but we will have to use this 1% figure. And so the eugenol, I never know how to pronounce them, but that will also be 0.015. So in total, in my lavender and lemongrass soap, I will have to list citral. I won't have to list the coumarin. Was it coumarin? Coumarin, because it's 0.001, so it's below the threshold. We will have to list geraniol. We will have to list limonene. We'll have to list linalool. We'll have to list the citronellol. And we will have to list the eugenol. So I chose that one because I knew it would have a lot of allergens in it. So yeah, very much really a case of you'll have to do the maths one at a time, add them all together. And hopefully I haven't confused you by just using one line, because it's actually no point in having them all really, but I know a lot of the calculators going around have got them all listed, but in actual fact, each line does exactly the same sum regardless of what's written on the left-hand side. I hope that's helped. I know it's a bit of a challenge, but it's just sitting down and doing the maths really. Okay.